So now we're going to start our next session, which is entitled The Rise of AgeTech and the Care Economy. So I'm going to start off by introducing our moderator for this session. Let's give her a round of applause. Magnify Ventures founder and managing partner, Ms. Joanna Drake. 皆様大きな拍手でお迎えください。Okay. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Konnichiwa, Joanna Tomoshimasu. This is a picture of myself and John Drake, my brilliant global business father, who was the reason why my family moved to Japan when I was only 8 years old, and began many chapters of coming back and forth to work and live in Japan. In his early 60s, my father started showing signs of forgetfulness. Fast forward to today, he does suffer from advanced dementia. So he still has lovely memories of Japan, but he has no short-term memory. And he requires 24/7 caregiving. That is why when the Sushi Tech organizers invited me to speak on the subject of AgeTech and the care economy, I was so grateful because this is both a personal topic and a professional topic. In 2020, we founded Magnify Ventures. I am a serial entrepreneur and operator from Silicon Valley who has been building many tech companies and venture firms. But we saw a white space in the care economy. My partner Julie had worked with Bill and Melinda French Gates for over 10 years as an investor and strategist. And as she was backing some of the biggest Silicon Valley venture firms, she saw an opportunity to create a firm that followed the entire life cycle from pregnancy through to end of life, areas that have not been traditionally sexy for venture capitalists or entrepreneurs, but very much needed in regards to technology innovation. When we first launched our firm in 2020, as of course COVID was just descending, but the words, the care economy, were not very familiar. So in order to attract entrepreneurs and other co-investors, we did a lot of work with some of the world-class research and strategy groups, including McKinsey, the holding company, and Pivotal. And our early work showed that the care economy, if you take into account all the expenditures and the energy spent on caring from infants to the end of life, is a $648 billion market in the US alone. Boston Consulting Group also got into the act, and they added on top of those aspects of care, unpaid caregiving, which in the United States is 50 to 60 million caregivers, as well as the gray economy, which may not be acknowledged and certainly not compensated, and that adds up to a $6 trillion annual market. In the United States, one of the phenomenon that we have been experiencing over the last decade is what we call the sandwich generation. 2/3 of adults self-identify as being a member of the sandwich generation. They care for kids as well as older adults. And it's not just the time and the energy and the distraction from their work, but it's also a big financial burden. So 20% of sandwich adults are supporting financially kids and an adult child. This is leading to a crisis in family health in the United States, and why our Surgeon General from the former administration called out the crisis for both adolescent mental health and seniors who are suffering from social isolation and loneliness, over 50% of both populations. Then when you layer on top of that a working parent population who's burned out, described as over 42% when asked, the cost to the GDP and to the businesses is extraordinary, almost $200 billion. Of course, in the United States, we are starting to follow the trends that we see in an aging society like Japan. We're very much behind, but we're fast catching up. In 2034, it will be the first year that older adults outnumber the number of children in the United States. and we are woefully underprepared for this phenomenon. The only good news is the investors are starting to see the opportunity for building scalable, profitable businesses in this space. A couple of really compelling statistics. When we think about the size and the opportunity to build technology innovation and help not just with bridging gaps in infrastructure, which we have very little in the United States in the care infrastructure, but also having societal impact, it's a compelling opportunity. $8.6 trillion is the size of the US longevity market. And just today, 56 cents on every dollar is spent by an older adult above the age of 50. Sadly, we have very few products, services, communities that are designed specifically for this community, so the opportunity is massive. And of course, if we don't get ahead of preventative care and better care support, the cost to society around the world, and particularly in the United States, will be quite drastic. The dementia cost for the world is estimated at $1.3 trillion, and of course, we know the escalating healthcare costs. At our firm, Magnify Ventures, we bring technology with founders into the entire life cycle, from infant care, from pregnancy, through to raising children, household management, future of work for working parents and caregivers, all the way to family fintech and social support, dementia care, and end-of-life assistance for older adults. When we talk about age, tech, and longevity, there are some really exciting founders stepping into this space and some great companies that are shaping up. I'll mention just a few of them to give you a flavor of some of the arenas that we're working in. PeakHealth.ai is actually a stealth company being formed right now. It's one of the most experienced virtual care entrepreneurs stepping in to leverage AI in order to build out personalized, preventative, and data-driven affordable care with longevity services that can be afforded not just by the 1%, but by the mainstream population. Sunday Health is the first comprehensive cognitive care platform, helping identify as early as in the 30s, 40s diagnostic implications for dementia and coming up with full, holistic, comprehensive care plans for the entire journey of dementia. Grouper understands that if we can keep our older adults socially active, then they will both live happier lives, but it will cut down on the healthcare costs. This is an insurance-covered benefit for older adults, and it helps seniors find other friends who like pickleball, birding, or poker, brings them together on a regular basis, and they get incentivized to do so. Papa is a great poster child for opportunities in the age tech space. This was a founder who moved away from his grandfather and realized very quickly what was his grandfather going to do without his best friend, his grandson. So he put ads out on Facebook and asked if there were college students or part-time working parents that would drop in on his grandfather and bring his prescription, show him how to use FaceTime so he could connect with his family and avoid social isolation and loneliness. This was the first mover in a marketplace for gig economy workers to support older adults living alone, family on demand. It's covered by insurance. And Magnolia is founded by part of the Amazon Care team, who spun out to build the first AI-enabled, personalized care navigation and support system for the 50 to 60 million family caregivers who take care of their older adults in their home. This is also covered by insurance. One of the things that we're going to talk to in a moment with a couple of esteemed panelists is opportunities for US and Japanese collaboration. I see so much opportunity here. Already we have a lot of corporate and academic partnerships in regards to developing joint R&D on US tech innovation. There's so much opportunity to learn from Japan for us about regulatory frameworks and infrastructure that the government has subsidized. And then when it comes to healthcare integration, we're living in a world where we have so much data flows from our Aura rings to our smart watches to family caregivers at home starting to log and monitor, to monitoring devices in the home. And there's so much opportunity now, particularly with AI, to integrate healthcare solutions. And of course, the opportunity to bring companies who are innovating on both sides of the Pacific to each other's markets. There are so many insights that we can start sharing that we've learned from entrepreneurs and investors both about the opportunity for building more aging in place solutions, using technology for cost-saving tools, addressing social care, and preventing social isolation and loneliness, which leads to chronic conditions and disease. And of course, the opportunity for personalized aging journeys. So with that backdrop, I'd like to invite a couple of astounding individuals to join me on the stage. Makiko and Vic, if you can come on out. I'd like to just share a couple of notes on our esteemed panelists. Makiko Kawabe is a Renaissance woman. She spent 17 years at Mitsubishi Research Institute developing deep domain expertise in healthcare, policy, aging research, and bridging public health, innovation, and social impact. Today, she is a senior researcher in longevity for Sampo Digital Labs, as well as serving as a professor at Tohoku University. She is a super connector in our Silicon Valley circles, and she also keeps herself busy by teaching yoga and playing the koto, hence the Renaissance label. Vic Kashyap is an entrepreneur at the forefront of healthcare innovation and AgeTech. He is the founder and CEO of Toy Labs, whose AI-powered smart toilet seats are deployed in over 50 senior living facilities across the United States, and as we'll hear today, on the brink of expanding into Japan. Vic brings very unique experiences to this conversation. He's a little bit of a unicorn. He's been a venture capitalist straight out of school, which is one of the hardest things to get a venture job out of undergraduate, at a leading VC, no less. He has been a very successful healthcare SaaS founder who exited a company to Aetna CVS, and he's been an operator and executive in one of the Japan's largest software companies. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to hope to have a very interactive discussion that will lead to follow-up conversations with many of you. In my intro, I did some framing of what's happening in the care economy and lack of infrastructure in the United States. So I'd like to kick off this interactive conversation talking about the state of senior care in Japan, and then touch on opportunities for cross-collaboration. Makiko, you are absolute 20-year domain expert here, and I've heard you talk a little bit in a frustrated manner around how AgeTech has been around in Japan for decades, and yet it's no longer, or maybe never was, very sexy for entrepreneurs and investors. Would love to hear from you. What's working, what's not working, maybe how we make it sexy again.
Yeah, thank you for your great introduction, and I'm happy to share my knowledge in the senior care market in Japan. From my perspective, I think, Japan has, eventually Japan has achieved remarkable outcome. You know, we have the longest health span. Actually, the Japanese women live around 87 years, and it's the longest in the world, right? And also in Japan, the number of people over 100 is around 90,000, and the number is still growing. So I think I think there is slightly difference between health span and lifespan in Japan, but I think Japan has achieved great healthcare outcome. And the reason why this is, I have three hypotheses. One is in Japan, basically government ensure the access to the healthcare services to all the Japanese nationals by delivering the social security system. And second is the system for the senior care is also established in 2000, and which is designed to promote the independence for elderly. I mean, it's not, provide the luxury service. It's very important. And the third is, it is worth of respect is that this healthcare outcome is, achieved by the tremendous effort by the healthcare professional. So this is the current status of Japan's healthcare and senior care market. But we also have the challenges. I think after we established the senior care systems in Japan, the government allowed private sector join this market, and the number of service users has increased so rapidly. So the situation has occurred both supply and the demand side increased simultaneously. As a result, there is the financial situation cannot keeping pace, and also there is acute shortage of caregivers, care staff. So in order to bridge this gap, I think there is a potential for the to use the technology at the service site, even in a country where the systems are established by the public sector. So I think the possibility that the aging tech will expand in near future in Japan. That's my hypothesis. And and also with our super aging society and the demographic change on the way, it's almost impossible for the private public sector shoulder all the responsibilities. So we needed to think about the role of private sector in Japan. So that's why I moved to Silicon Valley and looking for the new tech and the innovation that can be brought back in Japan. And since Sompo is also the senior living provider, my focus tends to be the kind of the solutions that enhance the efficiency of operation at the service site, or the solutions that enhance the quality of care for the elderly. That's my current situation in the senior care market in Japan.
It's interesting you mentioned more opportunity for private sector here than public sector. I think from where we sit, it looks great, the level of public support that you have, which we are lacking and is diminishing by the day in the United States. But Vic would love to hear from you. You've spent a lot of time going back and forth between Japan over the years, and now you're poised to bring your company to Japan. You and I share a conviction that if you're a software developer and your company has had success in the US, the second best market to enter into is the Japanese market. Tell me why you think that, and particularly in the AgeTech space, what your plans are and why you're excited to come.
こんにちは、皆さん、トイラボのビッグカシャプと申します。よろしくお願いいたします。Thank you, Joanna. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Our company is a unique company. So we've developed an AI-powered toilet seat that goes into the homes of people, understand what's going on inside someone's body by optically scanning their waste. うんちとおしっこを光で分析します。And so what we have done, I think, is something, first of all, that's very unique, but also it's very amenable to Japanese culture. And especially as you look at kind of aging, I think one thing that's unique about Japan is that culturally there are a lot of ancient Eastern concepts that are part of day-to-day life and culture. And so in the United States, for example, talking about what you do in the bathroom or putting technology into the bathroom, there's some aversion to that. And so, but it is something everybody does. And they are the most performed medical tests in the world after blood. And so talking about it should be natural, but it is not natural, especially in a lot of Western society. And so I think Japan, from that perspective, specific to our company, has a very good match. But I think even more importantly, from a structural standpoint, Japan has, I mean, as an American entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, looking at Japan as a market, there's obviously a lot of challenges, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can talk about how difficult it is to enter the Japanese market, but once you enter, it's, it's better, because people stick with you. It's more relationship driven. But I think in our case, what we really like about Japan is the fact that, number one, there's an institutionally integrated structure between Eastern medicine and Western medicine, and also the government and the private sector. And it's unique. There's nothing like it in the world. And so I think that these factors, to me, stand out as some of the key reasons why Japan, I think, is poised to be the greatest adopter of AgeTech technology beyond just the demographics.
Also, very hard to get your first contract in Japan, but once you get it, you tend to be able to use that as a reference account and knock down businesses very quickly. More price insensitive customers, more technology savvy, and more loyalty from a generalist perspective. So I'm all behind you. Makiko, can you talk about, I've had a chance to visit the Sampo Digital Lab in Silicon Valley. It's a really impressive group doing a lot of innovative things. You've been there for a couple years now. What are you there scouring for, and what have you found in this area of AgeTech?
Yeah, as I said before, I'm now currently working at Sampo. And Sampo is traditionally the property and casualty insurance, but we expanded our business in healthcare sector in Japan. In fact, we run the senior living business in Japan, and not only the senior care, but also we started the gyms and wellness program in order to achieve our purpose to help the people live fulfilling their lives. And also, Sampo is very aggressive in innovation, and we are trying to use the innovation, and then we like to change our operation in more digital. So we have the digital transformation division, and that is our collaborator of Sampo Digital Lab. And we are actually Sampo Digital Lab is an open innovation lab located in 3 areas in the world. One is Silicon Valley, Tokyo, and Israel as well. And we are bring the new tech and innovation that enhance operation in Japan's new business. And I'm in charge in the healthcare field, and as I said before, with the demographic change underway, we should use the tech at the service site. So I often look at the tech and the innovation that can be brought back in Japan to enhance the efficiency of operation at service site in Japan. Yeah.
And are there specific companies that you have assisted bringing into the Japanese market? I hear that you're helping Vic a bit, but are there specific cases that you can talk about that you've partnered with as Sampo and brought back?
Pardon?
Are there specific examples of technology innovation companies in Silicon Valley or the states that you've brought back?
Actually, we are now trying and error on the phase. We are now collaborating with a lot of startups, and we are trying to introduce them to the senior care living in Japan. But it's the discussion point of today. In Japan, we have the Japanese corporate culture, and it is managed typically it is managed in silo, and they prefer to grow incrementally. So they don't prefer the new tech and new innovation immediately. So we do the kind of the catchball, send the information of the startups and then have the conversation. And then we gradually know each other and then try the proof of concept with the startups and some point.
One of my previous venture firm, one of our models was to bring successful technology companies from the US to Japan. But we've always counseled them, only come if you and your board are comfortable with the fact it will take 2 years of relationship and trust building and proving, and then nemawashi on the Japanese side, and it's a very long process. So look forward to seeing more results there. When are you launching in Japan? What's the timeline?
So great question, Joanna. So we actually have launched in Japan.
You have,
and
okay.
and we announced it around the same time of this event. And it's a very exciting opportunity for us. I mean, we announced last year that Toto invested from obviously Kita Kyushu, everybody probably knows Toto, invested in our company, and along with other activities that we're now doing in Japan, we think that this is going to be as big of a market, if not potentially bigger than the United States for what we're doing. So.
And
yeah.
how is your revenue model and your go-to-market model different in both?
Oh, those are great questions. So Japan is a completely different market, and it requires a completely different pricing model, a completely different engagement with government and reimbursement activity, regulatory activity. So we operate, we're not a traditional medical device. We don't operate like an invasive product. We're more like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring in the sense that it's unregulated. But Japanese regulation is different than that of the United States, more similar to Europe. And also the general structure of the aged care environment, including what the government pays for and reimburses, is also extremely different from the United States. So this is where actually Kawabe-san has actually been very helpful in navigating some of those complexities, but it's different, very different, yeah.
And you need a local guide even when you have as proficient Japanese and experience as you do.
Oh, you need a local Japanese in Japan. That's critical.
Do you have a country manager here?
We have a local person now who's working with us. He couldn't join today, but
he's out there selling.
He is out there selling. That's right. That's right.
Good. While we're on the topic of entering different markets, it would be great to hear from you both the challenges that you see for Japanese entrepreneurs that are coming into the US market. One of the things that I've been observing this year as I've been participating in some programs that the Tokyo government has sponsored on encouraging entrepreneurs to think globally from the get-go is that, of course, long term, if the ambition is to become global, you don't want to be too narrow from a focus on a Japanese customer and revenue model. But at the same time, it's very hard for entrepreneurs who have not worked in Silicon Valley and have a playbook and a network with venture capital and talent acquisition and go-to-market strategies. You almost have to live and breathe it to be successful. So I see a little bit of a gap between the ambition and the execution, but would love to hear your perspective on this opportunity and challenge for Japanese entrepreneurs coming to the US.
Yeah, actually, we have both challenges, from Japan to US and US to Japan, right? Because there is a difference of the regulation, subsidy schemes, and pricing, localization, and partners, also the barrier of language. But the most fundamental challenge is, I think, the cultural difference. Yeah. So understanding for the overseas startups to Japan to understand the Japanese culture, and the Japan startups to overseas, we should learn about the U.S. culture. It's totally different. And Japan is island, right? So-called Sakoku country. It's not open to the immigrant compared to the other countries. And we prefer the tight culture, not loose one. So it's quite different. So I think the reason why I think the culture is important is culture shapes everything. The rules and the users' behavior, also how the decisions are made at the organization. So, so both sides, from Japan to US, US to Japan, I think understanding the cultural difference is very important, and especially if like big, from the overseas startups to Japan, it's very important to understand the regulation in Japan, because the healthcare system is regulated by the government, strictly regulated. So without understanding how it works, the business model and reality how would not hold up in a reality.
So this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. So I came to Japan originally looking to find someone at Toto. So I've come a long way since then. But I ended up working for a large Japanese software company, Wax Applications, here in Tokyo for 2 years. And our mission was to take the Japanese style of enterprise software development, and they compete with Oracle, SAP, big software companies, and bring that outside of Japan. And so I saw very firsthand, what are some of the challenges with bringing, in this case, a Japanese enterprise software company to the United States. And I worked with some of the brightest minds to try to do it. And frankly, we did not succeed. And I learned a lot of lessons from that. And I think first and foremost, like what Makiko-san said, the cultural divide, you can't even, underestimate that particular issue. I remember having a meeting recently with someone in Japan who kind of described, the approach in Japan, "Watashitachi shimaguni desu." And so Japan is so unique in this world. I think it's almost like Japan and the world. And so I think even though, I think Japan has an incredible ability to assimilate technology, I think localizing it and bringing it to the US is a huge challenge. And if you look at the biggest companies that have succeeded in this, Sony, Toyota, Honda, these companies, I think what you see is that they put local talent. They set up local operations and put local managers in charge of the operations. And I think that's the only way to really do it. And that's how we're doing it in Japan as well. As much as I spend time here in Japan, I have to have local Japanese people who are running our operations.
I had a fun experience of working with DNA, leading gaming company in Japan, for a while, and one of the things that we spent a lot of time researching was what modern companies have been extraordinarily successful in Japan, and then been able to bridge the gap and expand to Western markets, particularly the United States, and they're very few. But I believe they can do it, so we'll help together.
Dekimasu.
Gambarimashou. Switching topics a bit, there is so much energy and investment capital going into a certain hot category out of Silicon Valley and the innovation hubs in the United States in the healthcare space right now. Precision medicine, functional medicine, longevity, these are really hot categories, driven as much by historical healthcare dysfunction as AI enablement, but also very importantly, consumer demand. So 40% of consumers are now wearing health tracking devices like the Aura, and 80% of them are reporting that they are very interested in managing their own health and wellness. This has not happened before in the United States. And as we think about the areas of hormone therapy, $39 billion projected market, longevity concierge services, $21 billion, functional medicine at $124 billion, and then of course GLP-1s are tripling to $150 billion by 2032. But on the subject of longevity, we could learn so much from Japan before we go pour tons of money into the space and try to make it up on our own. Makiko, I'd love to hear from you. How far are we behind now that you've been a couple years in Silicon Valley? The sophistication and the embedded longevity culture in Japan? And are there adaptable breakthroughs that we can look to as we start pouring money and entrepreneurial energy into this space?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't think that Japan is advanced just because we are super aging. We can learn from the U.S. as well, because I think the system, services that promote the longevity, it looks like the part of healthcare, but I think, personally, I think it's slightly different. Take this, for example. Whether it is viewed as a natural part of life or something that can be denied or treated, it depends on the cultural beliefs, right? In Japan, families tend to decide the end-of-life care for the families, for the elderly. On the contrary, in the U.S., individuals decide it for themselves, right? It's the contrary, different. Yeah. So I think the U.S. is more advanced gene therapy or regenerative medicine or AI-powered diagnosis. So compared to Japan, I think U.S. is more advanced, and I think Japan's strength is maybe the rise on the preventative care by the comprehensive approach. For example, we are aiming to build the integrated community care, integrated based community. That is kind of the idea of Blue Zone. The component is the purpose is to achieve the wellness and well-being of the people living there, promoting the exercise or nutrition and safe homes and connection to the society. So that is the strength Japan created. But I think regarding around the AI investment or evidence-based innovation, the U.S. is more advanced compared to Japan.
Certainly more money pouring in from the private sector.
Yeah.
As an American, I'm going to make a little bit of fun of Americans and what they're doing.
You're going to talk about biohacking dudes?
Well, I mean, I think that Americans in general tend to take something that is very old and well established, put maybe some spin on it, and think it's something special. And I think a lot of what's going on in this longevity space is really not founded in science, and whatever is kind of meaningful is founded in millennia worth of history. And so, for example, in longevity, classical studies have shown that really the only way to extend life is through calorie restriction and through fasting. And so these are concepts that now seem to be very new and very popularized, but have existed for thousands of years in the East. And more balanced ways of living, whether it's hara hachibunme or whether it's going to ofuro, but these kinds of things now seem to be somewhat new in the West. And so I look at it with a lot of skepticism, actually, and I think that there's a lot of profit incentive, frankly, that is driving.
The GLP-1s, for sure. Hormone therapy for women is a different factor, maybe.
Yes. And so I think it's a lot of what's being done in the longevity space. I think Japan should come out as a leader in this area, but again, just these American shysters tend to put a lot of spin on things and get a lot of attention and money.
Gosh, I hope I'm not backing any shyster. Vic, you're probably raising more capital sometime soon?
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit of a shyster to raise capital. How are you positioning your company in the longevity space? And you can't get hotter right now than AI meets longevity, so what's your spiel?
So our vision of the world is that we're moving away from our smartphones. And over the last 20 years, the smartphone has been the primary way we engage with the internet and computing power. And what is going to happen in the future is that we're going to engage in sort of an ambient way with computing power. And this is not something new in terms of a philosophy, but the way we're developing it, I think, is very different. We believe that, number one, the home is going to be the place where most of your healthcare happens. It's no longer going to happen in a hospital or a clinic. And it's most likely going to happen in the most private room in your home, which is your bathroom. And the way that you engage with the most important part of your life, which is your healthcare, is going to occur in the bathroom in a very unique way. And the things that today we're able to capture, things like your urine, your stool, your breath, your medications, these are all things that are going to be able to be tracked, delivered, combined with telehealth services to deliver essentially a super agent, you could call, way of engaging with your own body and your own health and wellness. We see that as the future. And, we're starting obviously with the toilet, a toilet seat, but ultimately that's kind of the vision we're going.
Your company was featured in a great article, I can't remember if it was Wall Street Journal or Washington Post, which talked about the med spa bathrooms and a future where we'll actually maybe talk to our doctors in our mirror who can be diagnosing if we have some dermatological issue and have a remedy, can look at us and use monitoring devices to detect changes in temperature that may indicate illness, in addition to all the data that you're getting from the toilet seats. And then one might even step on a scale that can perceive that our stature has changed, maybe our balance and the way we're standing, which would cause a different level of specialization care to be brought into the home. What an amazing idea that is. How far off is that and how expensive is that?
So, we have funding from the NIH, from some bathroom brands, and we're building a lot of the cutting edge of this technology that we think is going to make all of this happen. I think that we're not that far away. If you look at the advances that have happened in AI, I think that when you combine it with the physical world, and Tesla has proved this, you can really use software to drive great insight into things that normally you would not have been able to get insight out of 10 years ago. And so I think that, bringing it back to kind of the aging population, I think that what's really unique here and what's really relevant for an aging population is that I don't think you can say that people who are older adults, it's not that they are less proficient with technology, it's just that the technology hasn't adapted in such a way to be as simple and integrated into their life as it should be. And when we think about the philosophy of how we build technology, the technology is actually designed to be completely forgotten. When you use a Trulu, there's nothing you have to do.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing you have to remember, nothing you have to press, nothing you have to do. And that's the level of technology development that I think you need to get to in order to have true adoption in an older adult population.
Yeah, that's why I love it too, because with my experience in Japan, if we want to install new tech in care settings, we have to train both manager and care staff to use the new tech, and it takes too much time. So without training this step, it's easy to install, and as a result, the elderly, the quality of care will raise. Yeah.
Well, we have a couple minutes left for some lightning rod questions, some of which you know, some of which you don't know. So we'd love to hear some pithy answers from you. Do I need to worry about mercury if I eat too much sushi? Opinion?
No.
No, I'm vegetarian.
You think so? My mercury's off the charts. What's your favorite sushi restaurant in the Bay Area or Tokyo or both?
食べられない.
So You know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, I'm bad at answers. I don't have that.
Don't
You
know.
have no favorites. Oh my gosh. We're at a sushi tech conference.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the most exciting AI application in age tech categories?
I like AI-powered humanoid robot called Mirokai, developed by the French startups, because it will decrease the burden of care staff at the facility, because they can monitor the medication and monitor the health checkup, health of the elderly. So and the analysis and
Is there a specific product or company?
yeah, Mirokai.
Mirokai.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, I'm gonna look that one.
Tululu. Toilabo no
Okay. Fair, self-promotion. Okay. What is a novel, even an audacious innovation that will be normalized in 5 years and in 10 years that we would not expect today?
Glasses, without a doubt. We're no longer going to be looking at our screens. We're going to be engaging a lot more through glasses.
Yeah, I love the kind of robotics to cover the 90% of the indirect work for the elderly at the service facility. Yeah.
Okay. You really like robotics.
Yeah.
We got that down. Okay. Any last words from either of you? Insights, recommendations? This has been a really fun conversation. The best part was dueling with, I don't know if that was karaoke over there or some other really fun music. This was like the funnest age tech conversation. Do you have any last words?
Yeah, I think aging is not a social issue, but the economic one, right? And that is the challenge that we should solve by the cross-border collaboration. So yeah, I'm happy to learn from the US. Also, I want to share the Japanese, my experience. Yeah.
Aging is not sexy, but I think with what we're doing, hopefully the people in the room, we can make just life better for everyone by innovating in this sector.
I think we should take the challenge of making aging sexy. That's the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get the consumer dollars.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
well, please join me in thanking our amazing panelists. This has been a really fun conversation, and we really appreciate the opportunity to spend the hour with you.
All right. Once again, thank you very much, Makiko, Vic, and Joanna. 皆様改めて大きな拍手お願いします。Thank you very much.